And with that, hopefully we are working. We're up and going. Okay, that's good. It's working. Um, awesome. That's what I needed. Hello, and welcome everyone who's eventually, hopefully, going to watch this, or is watching this, or where we're going from here. Um, if you do eventually find this channel, uh, or you come across it through myself, any of our friends, the long story short is myself and four of my comrades are running D&D. Are running a D&D campaign set in the Fae. Uh, the point I'm trying to get across for this stream and then subsequent video that will be uploaded to our YouTube channel is to kind of give a recap of everything that is and has happened from the start of the campaign up until the current points now. The current point now is pretty far along, not exponentially far along that you can't kind of grasp what's happened beforehand, but we have been playing for several months non-stop. Once a week we'll play on a Monday night, Australian Eastern Standard Time, and we have been enjoying it. I'm the DM, and my name's David. We have four of our other comrades who will be obviously on the stream. Hopefully every Monday night you'll be able to catch up with them and see them and chat with them, find out about the characters a bit more, find out about them a bit more. Um, but I won't give too much away about them now because the point of this and what I'm doing now is to actually go through the entirety of the campaign from the inception, the start, and the kind of bullet points and dot points that have been important and that have led up to where we are now. And where we are now is, in my eyes, I'm excited. The way I've made this campaign is I have taken the structured D&D world, um, of course, homebrewed a lot of it, which is including, the story, reusing some of the settings myself, and also then taking other bits of core books and then changing them to the way I want them to kind of flow within the world that they're currently in. So this means a couple of things. You will definitely see and know of things that are happening already, and you will definitely know some of the rules and everything that I already know. But what we want to get out of it, the main thing we want to get out of it really, is that the takeaway is you'll know. I'm just getting everything ready. Sorry, if it's a long story to get through. You will know some of the content already, but I have just kind of warped it in a way that is still to the core roots of what it is, but changed it a bit that it doesn't exactly be. It's not exactly the same as what it is. So like spoilers, but you're going to be watching it like the Crooked Moon DLC, like the books came out, are being utilized currently where we are. But I haven't just used the Crooked Moon stuff. I have grabbed the actual mechanics and changed them to the way I want. And so that's how the nature of homebrew works. Um, it's a lot of fluff, I know, and I really hope you stick with it. This is just, like I said, it is a encapsulation and a really just a overview of the story so far. So, without going too much more prattling about me and everything that's going on, like I said, David, the DM. You have Luke, Lynn, Shane, and Justin. Like I said, if you join into our live streams, which will hopefully be starting soon, I've just had a newborn, so once we get that sorted and timing, we start doing the live streams a bit more, you'll be able to actually chat with them and see them and interact with them. But the core concept I want to get across is those are the 4 people and their 4 characters. So we will start from the start. And I haven't told the party this, but we can almost try and make this kind of story overview canon by introducing a character they've already met. Um, you've got the 4 characters, or the 4 party members, I should say. You have our good friend Luke, who's playing Bong, a well, you'll see him coming up. He's a very light-hearted fellow, but he is an orc named Bong. His intelligence, unfortunately, is on the lower side, but he's a sweetheart. He wants to basically play his bongos, which he does have a large set of bongos as his preferred musical instrument that he brings with him everywhere. It's a family heirloom. Backstories we'll get into later as well. They are still evolving as we go, but mainly he is on the kind of hunt for his family. He doesn't have he doesn't actually have a recollection of his parents or anything from his past as far as his family tree, and that's currently what we're going through now with him. We have Bong, large green barbarian orc, who's also a bard. Then we have Justin, who's got his tiefling Helvig. His tiefling is a necromancer. Funnily enough, I have never run a D&D campaign after doing many years of it with a necromancer, so that's something that I'm getting used to now, actually. But he has a red tiefling with wings, as the subclass goes, as the trait goes with the wings, and he's running a necromancer. His backstory, if he chooses to indulge on others, he will be able to tell you what it is. I'm not going to divulge too much of the backstories, just as I am running through my memory banks as to whether or not he's told, or they have told the other party members too much about it yet, so I'm not going to do that to you guys. But yes, he is our resident gruff boy. He kind of runs on the toot of his own horn. Loves a good drink. Will find the bar immediately wherever he goes. And you can kind of see, he was reluctant to join the party to begin with. He was kind of just like thrust into it, but now he has kind of become kind of getting a soft spot for the rest of his comrades, which is good to see. You then have our small boy. So you have Shane, who's running Uxorian, who is a human, but he does have what you'll almost classify a form of dwarfism. He is only 3.5 feet, so he is very short. But being very short, he decided he's going to utilize that by becoming a druid. And so, he is a druid. He's been with he's actually been with the one with the animals, one with the party. He's been the kind of almost glue. He's very friendly off the get-go, very trusting. He's very naturalistic. He loves being in the jungle. He loves being in the forest. He loves being with animals. He's kind of like animals first, humans later. But he's still very, very nice to get along with. And so yes, like I said, he's very short, long brown beard, long scraggy. But if you picture Radagast, I always pictured Radagast from The Hobbit, but even shorter than what he is. He's Uxorian. Each of them are very unique as well, which is lovely. I haven't actually run a campaign with such not just diverse characters, but just a actual kind of, each character is very unique in just their personality, their looks as well, the way they operate. I mean, yes, I get Bong's green orc, and that's very generic and stuff like that, but the whole idea of how he runs and how he operates is unique, and I really enjoy that. And last but not least, especially because she's currently the only female party member, is Lynn playing Fleur, our monk of the group, who's also chosen the way of mercy, so to be our healer. And so our healing monk, which I always like the idea of, punching with love. So they're punching them with, hands of healing. Um, and she's very pale skin, kind of that like real pale white with the dark hair. But her outfit that she wears, she is a big trinket girl, so she's very much in love with the trinkets wrapped around her. She does jingle wherever she goes. You picture kind of like that gypsy vibe, but with a vocation for punching people, which is really great. And of course, because of her actual race, sorry. Um, yes, that she is a Asama. So we have a Kalishtar and an Asama, and so because she has the Quarry soul accompanying the same mind as her, she does every now and again talk to herself. NPCs have to kind of really just go along with the flow of just the fact that this woman is talking to herself. A lot of times she does it, to herself within her own mind, but she's happy to say it out loud. Her party members at the start will be like, "Oh, it's a bit weird," but they're kind of, it is the Fae. It is very odd, but she's flowed really well, and she has started to grow as a person. Same with the backstories for her and for Uxurian and everything. Um, they're getting there. We're getting to the part of the story which, no spoilers for anyone else, but they're getting to the part of the story where things are evolving and little tidbits are starting to come out. And it's very exciting for me, and hopefully it's very exciting for the party once they get to see more of what's upcoming. Hopefully very soon. But that's the 4 heroes, we'll call them, 4 champions. Um, there has been some cameos along the way. There's one currently happening now, but we'll get to that much later. So with that out of the way, we will get to the meat, the actual meat of the point of the video, which is the story. So what we will do, and this is the DM coming out, we will, everyone, hush, even though it's streaming, it's fine. We will run this as if someone is telling the story of the adventures of these people. So there is a specific NPC they have met who is a storyteller, and he will be the one to kind of give you the overview of what he has seen, unbeknownst to the party. And so we have our good friend Lamb. And so Lamb is going to explain the story. So we begin. It is a cold night in the Fae. There are portions of the Feywild that have, one day they'll be boiling hot, the next day they'll be freezing cold. But to this one individual, this kind of spectre of the Fae, he feels no heat. He feels no cold. He unfortunately feels no emotions. He is the one and only Lamb. Lamb sits next to a bonfire, wood crackling, pops happening in the air. You can see the cinders actually leaving a beautiful trail up into the sky. Looks above him. You can see the kind of pink aura that is the sun. The Fae itself running dual suns at this point of the area where he is. Does not give a chance for moonlight to occur. You're seeing one sun go over the top, bringing you that kind of point of the day where you believe it should be hitting that twilight-esque area where it should start to come to nighttime. But from the horizon, you see a second sun being born, coming to replace the one before it, giving you a perpetual day. The inhabitants of the Fae have learned to get used to this through means of magic, by creating a false sun, a false moon, or by simply accepting that their body clock will be a bit whack and that they're getting used to it. There is a reason for it that at this point in time we can't get into. But our good friend Lamb, sitting by this fire, has in front of him a group of 20 people actually. All lined up on three separate long logs, kind of seem to be itching and waiting of bated breath as this very short, pale white elf, um, you know, ghastly white skin, kind of that bleached white. Um, the hue of his eyes completely black. Jet black hair running down him. The vests and clothing he's wearing are also completely white, but you've got the trimming has black along it, just so you can kind of see where the top starts and the bottom ends, and then vice versa. He's sitting on a elevated platform, kind of overlooking these 20-esque people who are watching him currently. Um, he's content. He seems to be kind of gazing over the wistful eyes of these individuals who are watching him, and he's kind of propping himself up a bit. He's on a nice ornate armchair. It's got a cushion on the back and cushion on where your buttocks will sit, just to keep him kind of comfortable. But he looks over and he goes, "Well then, everyone, it's good of you all to come out for tonight. And while I do say tonight, being the rising of another sun, I think I have a special story in something that I've been wanting to perhaps give and tell a lot of people. And that I think now is the right time that I can share with you just a small glimpse of what I have currently seen in the uh, not too distant past. Allow me to begin from the very start, from the very beginning of where I met these four adventurers. So, it all started with our four adventurers gaining a ticket to the Witchlight Carnival. They acquired them via various means. They either acquired them, actually, Helvigs was off a dead body, being a necromancer of sorts. The other three acquired them for various means, either through winning them or from, actually just actually finding hers or simply on the floor. But they all acquired them by various means. The Witchlight Carnival is a incredibly famous carnival that rolls around once every 70 years through the Fae. It does change locations, completely random spots in the Fae. They don't actually get to choose it. It just kind of morphs itself into the Fae wherever it does. And through this, which is, once again, Fae magic, it takes up a large expanse of land and is there for only 24 hours. You're only there for 24 hours. It is a shame. A lot of people wish it was longer, but yeah, it's only for a whole day. And so if you're lucky enough to acquire one of these tickets, you are given entry. And so because our four comrades are very lucky in acquiring their tickets as they did, they were permitted entry. So they're all going about their business, doing their separate things, when a small imp would come and introduce himself. They did notice that when the imp introduced himself, that the time and kind of space around him seemed to freeze in its place. The people around him that were mid-chat were stopping and couldn't move. Drinks were being poured mid-air, and you could see everything had kind of frozen as they were being talked and led to a conversation with the imp, who informed them that the carnival has started. Very politely gave them the opportunity to attend if they wished to, using their tickets, of course. And so they all agreed. The carnival hosts promises the participants something that is personal to them, something that they may want. You have the idea of Auxurian, who is a animal lover and a keen activist looking for new animals to see and new creatures that he hasn't seen before, anything of myth or legend. And of course, the Fae being a wondrous place where animals and creatures are nowhere else to be seen. They're very unique as they are. He jumped at the chance to do this. His comrades were also the same. Bong giving the opportunity to be actually perform in front of a crowd and everything like that. So they all agreed, and they were then given a a tunnel like situation where they went through a kind of like warp tunnel to the entrance of the carnival. They all arrived, went through the check-in process. What I'm doing here is also I'm just like condensing down a lot of the kind of discussions and chats and stuff with NPCs they have as well, because like a lot of the sessions, they're roughly about 4 hours long. They did um, talk and discuss and have a look around, and I describe the scenery a bit more than what's happening here. But this is just to get you the kind of core dot points of the story itself. So they were all then passed through the entry gate, handed over their tickets, and made their way into the big top, the kind of grand, just large circus tent that you see at most carnivals, and everyone wants to go there and experience the intricacies and the wondrous events that happen inside. And so they all enter alongside a plethora of other patrons that are also in there waiting and ready to experience the carnival and all its joys and everything. They get in there, and the kind of patrons or the owners of the Witch Art Carnival introduce themselves. You've got Mr. Witch and Mr. Light, both Shidakai, however you want to say it, Shidakai. So they have that deep hue grade skin, the very large pointy ears, similar to elves. But you can see that Mr. Witch is kind of the large, kind of bulbous man, very kind of like bigger stomach, fuller in the chin, and he has a nice vest on with that top hat as well. He does also have a pocket watch that he was basically during the kind of opening speech was staring at the entire time and not actually conveying or speaking to anyone on the floor of the big top. Then you had Mr. Light, very tall, very slender, similar kind of hue to his skin, but he has the kind of full black, sorry, the full red and white outfit with the kind of jester looking to it. He's got the pants, he's got the boots, he's got the actual vest, and the kind of hat with the kind of like jingle on the front of it as well. So he has the jester look to him. It was Mr. Light who gave the introductions of welcome everyone to the Witch Art Carnival, gave them the rules about how the day was going to operate. There's 24 hours. You have 24 hours to go have as much fun as you want. There are rides. You have tokens. They give you the 10 tokens. You need to hand over a token to go onto a ride. And then the end of the day, there will be a monarch crowned, kind of almost you would say like a winner, you could say, of the Witch Art Carnival. Someone that gave there was various means and various kind of like different statistics to how they would become the monarch of the Witch Art Carnival, but it can be things like people liked them, participated in pie throwing contests, or pie, they actually participated in the events that are happening. Word got around about them. There were overseers looking around the carnival to see like if people were reacting nicely to them, if they were positive, negative. It was a whole kind of slew of different things that gave you points, and the points tallied up, and whoever had the most points became monarch. So he explains all that, and then he also explains at the end of the day that it is a sad day when everyone has to leave, but you will leave with your memories, unfortunately, kind of dissipated. Your memories will disappear of what actually happened during the carnival. You went, you know that you enjoyed it, and you know that you went on specific rides, but the people you meet, the location, and a whole bunch of other kind of bric-a-brac of the day disappears. You do get to keep the prizes you acquire, because there are like a lot of prizes you can acquire during the carnival, but the kind of like crux of like who you meet and stuff like that memory fades from your memory. It fades from your noggin at the end of the day, which is upsetting, but it is like part of the actual carnival. All of this gets explained to the party and everyone else in there, and then the last part is that Mr. Light does make a specific mention to point directly to who they think is a young man standing there, pale white skin, kind of that bleached white, black eyes, black hair. white outfit with black trim, as he is standing there looking around, as everyone is kind of like not understanding why Mr. Light is specifically pointing out this man. But he is being pointed directly to. And then he says out loud that there is someone here who has snuck in, essentially, whose ticket is a falsification. It's a counterfeit. This ticket is to be handed over, and someone has to essentially um, admit to it. Of course, no one says anything. This all happened, unfortunately, because we wanted to get the campaign started, and our lovely Lynn couldn't attend the first session. So I had cooked this up so that the other three gentlemen could proceed, and we could get the campaign started. So, with that in mind, um, it wasn't until a couple of interactions later that the actual Mr. Light actually used names, and he said Fleur, and he said her name out loud, realizing that Fleur was standing directly behind this individual. The individual moves, like he actually moves sideways out of the way, and by doing this, everyone's kind of like, oh, what's going on with the young lady over here? Mr. Light explains that the ticket is a counterfeit and that she will have to be held in place, like physically held in place. The guards are there. But he can tell that she wasn't aware that this was a counterfeit. She thought it was a legitimate one. And so he gives the task, if someone was willing to do it, of going to acquire enough tokens, I believe it was, to gain entry for Fleur. And so our three comrades, actually, no, sorry, he asks people to raise their hand. And so Bong immediately is like the friendly giant, puts his hand straight up in the air, going, "Yep, I want to help." Uxorian, being a gentle soul, same as that, wants to help out someone who wants to also help out. You see the pale white man also put his hands up, but everyone seems to kind of ignore him. They don't actually listen to when he actually says, "I would like to join." He gets no response. But the other three party members, including Helvig, who joins begrudgingly, when they say, "Yeah, I'll join," gets an immediate response. So it's very strange for people like the 40 party members. They're like watching, going, "Why is no one interacting with this man? He's talking." So they get given the task to go acquire his tokens. And so that leads us to the first of two parts of the carnival. So there are two sides to it. There's the arcade side, where there's kind of like mini games and very small rides compared to the larger ones in the main. So the three comrades got to go to the arcade side of it, which included things like, there's whack-a-mole, but it's not actually whack-a-mole. There was Count the Feathers of the Cockatrice, which was the first time you saw that Uxorian had seen a cockatrice, which was great, and he actually used to speak with animals and got to have a conversation with one, which was a big deal for him. It was quite awesome. There was there was actually a drinking contest, which by the end of it, wow, I'm actually losing track of it. I believe Uxorian or Helvig won. I can't quite remember. But successfully, and I am really just like taking like a full session and just cramming it down. There was various rides they all went on. There was various attractions. They all interacted really well with them. They had a lot of fun. I hope they had a lot of fun. And after all was said and done, they finished off at the drinking contest. One of the more interesting, I would say, funnier things that happened was the fact that the Helvig decided to reanimate or power up one of his zombies. He does have a bag of holding, like a Pokemon filled with zombies. So he pulls one out and plops it next to him, and so he actually gives it the order to drink. And so the lovely the lovely bartender comes and she's like handing drinks to the zombie, and the zombie is downing them like it's nothing, obviously because he's undead. But the zombie seems to actually be responding to the alcohol and having a good time about it. And so it's quite humorous. They all have a drinking contest, and they realize very soon and very quickly that it's quite not fair that a zombie is currently you know, has a almost unlimited tolerance for alcohol. It's an undead, and so he gets disqualified, but he's allowed to keep drinking. Over over the course of a couple of minutes and rounds, and Constitution saving throws and all that, they get to the end of it, and there is declared a winner. Um, which was also the last token needed to secure entry for Fleur. Uh, Yay! That was fantastic. I was very proud of the guys for doing that for her. Because they had no idea who she was. Just that, she wanted to get in and she couldn't, but now she can. Um, the only last thing they saw was that the Pale Man was kind of watching them, and he was around every now and again. And once again, he could see that people were kind of drifting past him and not really paying attention to him, like almost like he wasn't there. And so that was very intriguing to them, and they kind of built a lot of distrust to this individual. The zombie then got up and actually meandered across, and you saw this individual walk over to the zombie, kind of whisper something into its ear, and then touch it on its shoulder, and it just bursts into flames. The entire zombie goes all light and is then turned to ash. Um, this, of course, did not sit great with Helvig, as it is one of his zombies, one of his precious commodities, and so this was a big red flag for him. They make it back to the big top. Mr. Light is there. He's taken the tokens already off the party, and they now have entry for Fleur. And that was kind of our first session. It's a very quick summary of it. So it was entertaining. It was good to kind of get a gauge of how the role playing was going to work with them, how they're comfortable with everyone, and how they interacted with each other. And it was good. They did really well. I find it very much easier when the party interacts with each other and when they want to kind of like take the role playing to like the next level where they'll pretend to be the characters. It makes my role and job way easier because then I can start to really get into it too. But it's all comfort thing, of course. I'll never do anything that's above or below their means of what they need to do. So, session 2. They after everything's happened, they explain to Fleur what happened, and she's grateful, and so they all stick together. They're a small kind of group now as they make their way into the actual main carnival, the actual Witchlight Carnival, and it is huge. It is enormous with a plethora of rides. You've got like the Dragonfly flying ride, you've got the Swan Lake kind of ones, you've actually got a mine cart down the bottom, you've got a wrestling ring, you've got the big top as well, which is part of it. You've got a center stage where bands will play and everything like that. You've also got snail racing, you've got the Hall of Mirrors. There is a lot to do, as you do in carnivals. And so they got free agency. They got free reign to do whatever they wanted. There was a lost and found that they spent time at. Well, actually, Helvig spent time at trying to fish through for stuff. Love that man. That's what he does. But it was essentially, it was just a good opportunity for these guys to kind of break out of their role playing shell and truly kind of find themselves as their characters. And so, perfect example was when they decided to go down to the minecart ride. They have their 10 tickets, and they have to hand over one every time they want to go on a ride. And so every time they go on a ride, time would pass, and then there was events during the day that at certain points of the day, if they didn't want to go to the events, they could do more rides. Every ride was an hour, if I believe right. And then certain events that happen at certain times of the day. They could skip them if they want to, but they didn't. They decided they wanted to do them was good. But like a good example of good role playing was when they went to the minecart section, and they all got on the minecart itself, realizing it's kind of like that spooky coaster vibe. Bong, the lovable man he was, realized immediately that he was kind of scared of the entire thing and grabs Uxurian kind of like a teddy bear and just grips him against each other, like hugging him tightly. This unfortunately meant that Uxurian was not strapped into anything and it was literally just being held by Bong as a sort of teddy bear, and he was Bong was his lifeline essentially, because if he lets go of him, he could fall. So they get through, they get to the minecart, and they go up to the minecart, and he does a twist and turns and everything like that. But the dwarven man who decided he's the one that made the minecart, he did something silly and he wanted to kind of give people a real big spook, and he puts a spell or a builds as part of it that once you get to the deepest, darkest part of it, that you can relive fears. They all were they all rolled safely except for Helvig. Helvig actually like he had some pretty dark visions, and he was not okay afterwards for a bit. Yeah, poor man, like he experienced some true horrors that he envisioned, and so they got through that part. And once they get to the end where it kind of dips down, goes really quickly. Um, Bong needed to hold onto Xorian as tightly as possible. He did not. He unfortunately let go, and Xorian just goes whee, and off he goes as the marker is shifting down with a lot of speed. This man Xorian just kind of goes whoosh, and gets whisked away, left behind on the tracks. But he does get attached to the wall, as there is kind of the sticky residue of spider webs and everything there. So he gets stuck to the wall as a kind of like a precautionary measure that they put there to kind of catch people falling out so they don't crash their heads or anything like that. The rest of the three make it down to the end of the ride and they leave, wondering where Xorian is, and Bong has to explain, I let go of him. As he did let go of him, and unfortunately doing that, he did get the consequences of... Sound is a little low. Okay, this is a test, by the way, so if sounds are low, I'll move this closer. Hopefully that's better. Also, once again, this is part of the thing. Practice using the chat, because if the chat pops up on mine, I know I've got the overlay working properly. Please. Like I said, this is a test as well, so that's where we're going with this. Cool. What we do have is Xorian being stuck to the wall with the kind of safety glue, you would almost call it. These kobolds come out kind of laughing their heads off at someone who's now been stuck to the wall once again. They get a liquid with a very pungent smell and kind of throw it onto Xorian to get him off the walls. It kind of like dissolves the stickiness and he's able to pry himself off and land on his feet safely. And he then, asks them what it is, and they kind of laugh quite a bit, and he has to force it out of them. But they basically get to the point of saying there was Yuan-Ti urine, because Yuan-Ti urine has a very kind of like anti-glue disinfectant, kind of like dissolving effect. And there we go, and it works. Excellent. I'm glad the chat works. Or actually, it works on the side. It doesn't work on the overlay. Oh no, it does work. Excellent. There we go. I did something. I made something work. That's good. So, Xuri now being covered in Yuan-Ti urine, the poor lad, he decides he needs to go wash himself up. And so he goes and washes himself off, does what he can to get it off himself and all that. He's understandably upset with that whole situation. But he takes it in stride. He takes it very well. He has a very, like I said, he's a very gentle and kind soul. So he does well. He then, they after all that, Holvig's in a bit of a state, and so they decide they're going to go to one of the first events, which is they're going to see the tree ants that comes out, who actually gives them the chance to win some prizes. I believe they do win a couple of prizes and everything like that, and then he gives them, they try and ask him about the previous owners of the park, and he said that, he's been around a long time, that he has seen the previous owners and everything like that before Mr. Witch and Mr. Light took over, and that he is quite happy with them. He's quite happy with the current purveyors and owners of the park, and that he sees no issue with them. There's always bickering and stuff happening here and there, but that was a kind of really role playing that made me I don't know, like it was refreshing and nice. It was good to really they got into it. They really found the characters, interacted well, and it made the entire experience like elevated it way higher than what a standard session could have been. So it was really good. Um, to TLDR it a bit further, there's a lot of different rides they went on. They went on the actual pie eating contest. They also went on the Dragonfly rides. They did do the Lost and Found, and they did Helvig acquired a bone whistle, which has it's a very overpowered whistle, but I'm sure he's happy with it. But there was the bone whistle and a bunch of other stuff. Towards the end of the day, I believe it was about the 3 p.m. mark, that the party decided they were going to try and do some more rides, and there was an announcement that every time they checked their time, they realized that the time was actually moving forward exponentially quicker. They were losing hours. This is not normal, nor is it okay. So the party was losing hours. They then you could see some of the kind of like workers rushing around trying to figure out what was going on, and this led to a announcement happening where Mr. Witch and Mr. Light came out on a kind of like a actual raised platform and had to explain to them that they're like, look, we're sorry, something's happening. We're trying to figure out what it is. This is not normal. This is not okay. We're going to reward you in any way possible we can with extra time or whatever it may be. But they'll work something out for you guys. It's only 24 hours. It's a big deal with the Witchlight Carnival. Like you want to spend as much time doing as what you can, but they're physically losing time. Like it's I mean like that. It's disappearing, and so it's a big deal. And so the guys were understandably not happy with that. So they were like, well, what can we do? What can we happen? What can we fix? And so they all got given a watch just to keep our eye on the time and see what happens. And it kept happening. The time just kept exponentially getting quicker and quicker and quicker and quicker. What we also have... Okay. So that overlay doesn't work. Okay. Oh, it does. Never mind. Excellent. It does work. I got something working. One last thing that the party did before they got to the end of the actual day was there was a band playing, and the band was playing a beautiful melody. There was 4 of them, each with a different mask of a different animal, and so they actually went and learned how to play the song that the troubadours were playing. The only warning they were given though is that the song that they could teach them, which they taught Fleur, they taught Bong, and they taught Uxorin how to play it immediately. And so kind of like that meme with all the like flashing like numbers and everything going past the woman's head. It was like that. The musical notes were actually being siphoned and sucked into the heads of the memory of these. But the kind of rules were that the song can only be played within the carnival. It's kind of essentially called like fantasy trademarks, but anyone who has played it outside of the carnival, something bad has happened, from small things up until someone's death. And so it's a stark warning not to play it outside of the carnival. So they all learnt the song. And the end of day rolls around. End of day rolls around, hits night, and the carnival actually gets to the end. Well, it doesn't hit night, sorry. It gets to the point of twilight. And then they go, Mr. Witch and Mr. Light, like, look, we're going to have to unfortunately end the day, but what we're going to do is crown the Witchlight Monarch, the actual carnival's king or queen of the day. Myself had a point tally happening throughout the days, I should say, of what was going on, and the points tally ended up with our young man Bong being the Witchlight Monarch. We love his intelligence. He did not know what monarch meant, and so they had to explain to him he meant king. So it's a kind of like every time someone speaks with them, they kind of have to use synonyms and change the words to be very simple versions of what they are. And so he was the Witchlight King. He got a crown, a physical crown made of butterflies and steel and everything. And silver and everything. It looks beautiful. Got a scepter, a kind of regal cloak made out of butterflies as well, and was able to be put on a chariot and taken around the actual carnival for a bit. That showcased not just he's now the king and everything like that, but also just that he got some wine and he was nice enough to go, I actually want to bring my friends along. So the other three of them were actually allowed on this carriage that at one point started flying because it was hailed by Pegasus and float them around. It actually float them around the carnival, kind of overseeing the entire carnival at the end of the day. And so with a young Bong monarch, a king, sorry, and his new regal status, that is actually a boon that he is able to keep. So he was able to keep two things. One thing he only knows still. The second thing is that he has actually been crowned the monarch, or the Witchlight monarch, gives him a boon, which means that any creatures of the Fae that are Fae exclusive creatures, so elves from the Fae don't count, but if it's like a fairy, for instance, it's a Fae fairy, they will see him as royalty. They will see him as an actual monarch, and we in turn refer to him as Your Highness. And so that was actually a really cool thing. I was happy to offer him, so he took that. This ended the day. The party was understandably upset that time had disappeared, and also that they were going to lose their memories of everything like that, and that also the creepy kind of like pale man was watching him throughout the day and no one's making any notice of him, except for the end of the day. Everyone had kind of gone home, ready to go back to their lives, but the four party members see this young man sitting by himself in front of a campfire with no one else around him. And he kind of beckons them to come over, kind of gestures for them to come join him. Very cautiously, the four of them walk over to this unique individual who's been omnipresent, I should say, the entire couple of days they've been there. And gesture them to kind of like start a conversation. So they wearingly talk to him, and sit down around him and everything like that. And they notice, like I said, the complexion of him is like bleached white, like ghost white. No pupils, nothing like this, just a black expanse where his eyes are. And he introduces himself as Lamb. You know, says to them that he has been given this name kind of like in jest because of his appearance, because he does look like that kind of lamb white color, and also they have the very dark eyes and everything like that. So he's a very timid looking fellow. He's been given the name of Lamb. He introduces himself very eloquently, very politely. He says that he knows who they are. He says he's seen them before, which is a bit eerie to say to someone that they've only met for the first time. And so he basically gives them a small task of, he's going to give them a small test because they ask him, can we please find out who you are, what's going on, how do you know us, all that stuff. And he says he'll answer them truthfully, but they have to pass a test of who they are. And so he creates an illusion where they basically fight a red dragon. And this is their first combat encounter. I should mention that they first rolled initiative at level 5 against a red dragon. I say sorry for that because they didn't know it was an illusion at the time. It was like, well then, as a dragon was like billowing fire and pretty much annihilating them. They each utilize kind of their inherent traits and abilities to showcase they know who they are. You have Bong who rages, and when he rages, he goes a different color. He doesn't really remember what happens when he's in that kind of fit of rage, and so he actually turns his bongos into a large club, uses it as a weapon. So it's kind of like a trick weapon, you could call it. You got Fleur who actually channels her inner chi and uses flurry of blows, and goes into her monk stance. You've got Helvig that uses wings to fly up and actually utilize his eldritch powers and everything like that. And then you have Exorian who wild shapes. And changes to be one with nature and to the animals he's seen. They all utilize what they've trained to do and who they want to be. Upon seeing this, Lamb realizes that they have a good grasp of their own internal mechanisms and who they are. They don't have any kind of like conflicts of like character of like, I don't know who I am or what's going on. He realizes they know who they are and what they can do, and so he kind of dispels this illusion and brings them back to reality, like, thanks Eminem. This gives them a heap of distrust against him, but also kind of relief is now they're going to be given 3 questions that he will truthfully answer. They ask one, which he truthfully answers, and then he offers them a story. He offers a story that is a sad, happy, or I can't remember the third one. Um, but he offers them a tale. He is known as a storyteller. He says he goes around telling stories and that he's pretty happy about it, and he offers them whenever they want to hear one. And so he gives them the choice, and they all decide they want to hear, I believe it was, the sad story. Um, the sad story is thus that there was a young man who was shunned by others. He was shunned by others, treated differently, and thus had no friends of his own. Upon relentless teasing and persecution and just pure loneliness, this individual grabbed an axe and split himself in twain, right down the middle, from top to bottom, splitting himself in two, so that he would always have a friend, and thus he would never be alone. They quickly put two and two together, realizing that this individual they're talking about was indeed Lamb, as he has that kind of like black tear come down his eyes, which is the first time he's kind of shown any emotion to the party as well. They put two and two together, realizing that this is a kind of story about him, and so they also ask, if you are split into, where is your friend? It is at this point that they meet the second half of Lamb, which is Wolf. You see the shadow of Lamb kind of like enlarge itself, expanse out across the ground, and kind of move into a kind of like, you see it kind of like warp up and become this nearly 12-foot giant wolf that walks out. 12-foot, yeah. Giant wolf that actually like glowing yellow eyes, brisk black fur, kind of rustling in the wind, kind of trudges towards the party very slowly, very ominous presence, a very deep anger and thirst for violence kind of emanates from this wolf as it walks over and sits itself next to Lamb, staring at the party like they are just the biggest slabs of meat possible. The party meets Lamb and Wolf for the first time, the duo themselves, and offers them another tale explaining more about who they are in a kind of like a riddle fashion, explain to them that, they are essentially the sort of like Grim Reapers, or like they are ferrymen that will help souls leave the land of the living to go to the land of the dead. As kind of like I say, a ferryman in between. But they do this via a kind of acceptance method where when someone has died, they will go up to the deceased person. The person, obviously, a lot of times don't know they've passed away. Lamb will give them the option of, do you accept that you have died and you are ready to accept who you are when you died and move on? If they say yes, then Lamb pulls out his bow and simply pierces them with it, and this is enough to give kind of like the go-ahead of acceptance that this individual is able to then move on. If they are, and so he says in a story, deny it, this is when Wolf gets his time to shine, and he is hunted. They hunt the actual person down for all eternity until they essentially decide that they are ready to accept what has happened. And I mean, in the story, he hunts his orc brother down that's in a war, who goes, I am not dead. And he hunts him, if I remember, like over 50 to 60 times. So when Wolf catches him and eats and devours him, he is simply brought back over and over and over to relive this kind of agony of being eaten alive by this giant wolf until kind of breaks the person. Either they break and they end up in hell, or they accept who they are and the kind of evil they may have done or whatever it may have done, and realize that that's who they are, and then that's when Lamb can take over, and Wolf and no longer gets free meal essentially. But they kind of act as two sides of the same coin essentially, and they explain who they are. they can't think of any the other two questions they want, so they give the Lamb gives them the opportunity to ask later. So he gives them a mask. He says, you're going to have one mask that summons either me or Wolf to your location. So, if you want a mask of Lamb, he gives them a Wolf mask. And then if Wolf wants them to come, he gives them a Lamb mask. And so the two of them take one of each. So two of them take a Wolf mask, two of them take a Lamb mask, which gives them the ability to call either one of the duo to where they are to answer the questions, whatever it may be, which is very handy. It's a very handy item to have when you have a spectre of death essentially on your side. But he explains everything that's happening and that it's not great what's going on, and he does does bid them farewell, and bids them adieu, and says like I said, if he ever needs to contact them, then that he's up for it whenever they want. So, the finishing touches of the night roll around. They all fight sleep, but they eventually, unfortunately, nod off for the night. And with this ends the Witchlight Carnival. They go to sleep. The flooded, expansive memories start going through their heads as they are remembering everything happened during the day with fondness and happy memories, as they start deleting themselves one by one. And that's how that session ends. Doesn't stop there. The 4 party members wake up in the kind of, and when I say wake up, they're not lying down, they're standing up. They kind of come to as they're all standing in the big top, back at the start of the day, looking around and looking up, and you can see the same people standing in the same areas, doing the same things, waiting for Mr. Witch and Mr. Light to do their talks and everything like that, and they can see Lamb is not there either. He has moved on to greater things. But they look at each other and recognize each other, which is not supposed to happen. They immediately recognize each other quite easily, and they're like, what is going on? Mr. Light gives his spiel about what's happening and everything. Welcome, blah, 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 blah. I believe it was Bong who actually spoke up and said, I know you and I know what's going on. And he's just like, that's lovely, Mr. Bong, no worries, it's all good. And he said, no, I remember yesterday. You see a twinkle and like a kind of like shine in Mr. Light's eyes when he realizes that the 4 people down there that from this which he was talking to actually remember the day before. And so he quickly ushers everyone else except the four party members and says, please meet him in the tent behind his kind of carriage behind the big top. The employee quarters. So they rush there, find Mr. Light's tent, and he basically, once again, to kind of really dumb it down, he explains that Mr. Witch's pocket watch, it has been broken, and so whenever he opens it, it's kind of like deep yellow light, kind of like extrudes out of it onto the face of the person. He's just encapsulated by this light, but also it's broken. It's not supposed to be doing that. And ever since it got broken, the kind of carnival has been going in a limbo effect where they've been repeating the same day over and over and over. And if anyone new joins the carnival, they are trapped in the carnival as it's repeating the same day over and over, but no one remembers anything except for Mr. Light. And now, the 4 party members, the 4 party members, they're the first people to actually realize what's going on in a very long time. A very, very, very long time. And Mr. Light is done with it. He is tired of reliving the same day over and over and over and over. But he can't figure out what's going on. And so he gives them the task of, he knows if they are not bound to the kind of machinations of repeating the day, then they may not be bound to this place. And so he gives them the choice of like this task, this journey of, can you please find the missing pieces of the pocket watch and bring them back so we can leave. We can stop this anarchy of what's going on, and opens a portal for them. And so if they are allowed to go through a portal and they exit, it means they're not bound to the carnival and the kind of things that are happening. And also, it starts the main campaign, of course. So they accept. They're given provisions. They're given everything. They're given one of the pocket watches themselves, so they know to make sure the parts are the correct ones and everything like that. They're also given a compass that actually points, towards the actual. You've either got the way the Feywild works. You've either got, you know, the Seelie side with Tiandra, the Archfey, or the Unseelie side, which is the darker side, you say, the light dark, with Tasha. She's Archfey of the Unseelie side. And so it tells you which way to go on this compass, and also the pocket watch kind of pulls you in the direction of its parts. It has a general magical aura where it kind of like tugs you in the direction of where to go. And so they successfully go through the portal and leave the carnival, and they're the first people to leave that carnival in a long time. And so this is where the main campaign officially starts. They wind up in a kind of lake in the Feywild. They make their way out of the actual lake itself, and they come to a crossroads. And so this is the first time they're kind of like in the Fey. They're in the plains. They're in the actual world itself. They're not in the carnival. They're in the actual Feywild. And so, Fleur gets this like this deep feeling of being home. This, the homesickness she's been feeling for so long disappears immediately. She just kind of breathes in the air and just feels alive. And everyone around him is like just happy to be here. Um, but they are in the Fae. They're officially in the Fae with the task of finding the four parts of the pocket watch and to return to Mr. Light or whoever he needs to, so that he can hopefully reverse what's happening to the poor people, because it's not fun. Let's be honest. We all see Groundhog Day. It's monotonous and it can kind of break a lot of people. And so that's ended that one. And so just before it ended, there was a crossroads with a sign that showed different areas to go. But in the middle of the crossroads was a large pile of bodies. Like I think it was like 6 to 10 people, like piled neatly on top of each other. That immediately our young necromancer friend, I say young, but our necromancer friend was like, "That is what I call ammunition." And so he immediately goes over there and he's just kind of like, cool, I'm going to start looking for people that look strong, or, what kind of zombie can I make out of this and everything like that. A purveyor of goods, you could say, a purveyor of the undead. And so he fishes through them and everything like that until it gets to the point where he like gets to the bottom. There's a large man there, a buff of a person. He's like, I want that part of my team. They kind of lift him off as the ground underneath gives way and he falls through the actual like floor and straight down. Unfortunately, Oxurian is the one who actually falls down, being on the body pile, near the pile of bodies itself. As he falls, he gets down there, and Oxurian is now like just really badly hurt from the fall itself. There's called a pitfall trap, as he's in this cavernous area. The cavern itself can't see too much more as it kind of bends around the corner, but Helvig comes down himself and gives the shit. I'm going to do it. I'm going to give you some healing with life transference. So he actually gives some of his life to Uxorin to help him. It almost offs himself immediately, like third session in, and Helvig almost offs himself because he rolled so good on the life transference that he's like, have all my health, and not just like almost all of it, almost all of my health is gone, because he's like, have all of it, which is quite humorous. As like he could have died by being a martyr essentially. But this meant that when they were down there, I could kind of see that the flesh of these carcasses that were fallen were kind of like crackling and breaking and kind of merging together and making slopping noises, and the bones and stuff were like breaking and everything like that. And then this flesh amalgamation starts like actually like moving itself up and growing and growing and growing, and then they were forced to roll for initiative. The two of them were down there, and that was the end of that session as well, which was great. Another really good session where they really came to their own, did a lot of RPing. There was a lot of carnival stuff, so I hope they enjoyed that too. But this is where they finally got into the crux of the Fae, where they actually started getting into like the actual Fae wild stuff, which is good. So what happens next? Um, they the other two up the top, they're like, well, we need to get down there ASAP. So they jump down to try and assist, and so the four of them land down there, destroy this creature, and then quite easily kill it. And then they're like, well, we're down here now. Let's figure out what the fuck is going on. Like, why is there a weird flesh amalgamation creature down here? Make their way through the cave for a little bit, the cavern, I should say, and they can start hearing voices kind of reverberating and bouncing off the wall until it hits to their eardrums. They can hear like this crying, whimpering coming from all different directions, and like screams to help and everything like that. It's a cacophony of like horrible noises to hear, but they all kind of hear it from all directions. Helvig pulls out a zombie to go one direction because he can actually to go one way because he can actually see through the eyes of it using telepathy. Telekinesis, one or two, to see what's going on. This is very handy because it has a long range, which means he can be around one corner and they can be safe while the zombie does his bidding and can kind of be like the scout or the recon. And so he does that, sends it around, and sees that there is two caged creatures in this kind of alcove area, and that there is, nothing around to see like what's going on, but there is two caged creatures, and so they decide to cautiously make their way around to where the zombie is. Once they get behind him, they kind of send the zombie in, and another flesh creature kind of slops itself from the roof downwards on top of it to just absorb and eat this creature, like the zombie and whatever it happens to be there. They get in there, they fight more of these flesh creatures, and this is when because they've killed enough of them now, they kind of gain an understanding of what they are, and they are a gibbering mouther. If you ever want to look that up really quick, a gibbering mouther is essentially just a necromancy gone wrong, where they kind of use the organs and intestines, skin of the creature to kind of like warp it and stretch it and then fuse it together, where it gains a small bit of sentience like thing, but most of the time it will listen to the creator of it. But it's just a bounding mess of flesh. It's disgusting to hear and see, and they have multiple eyes and jaws and stuff like that, so no part of it is safe. But these seem to be rampant within this cavern. And so they cautiously make their way through, kill the ones that are there, and they rescue two fairies. And the fairies explain that they have 7 siblings, or so there's 7 of them in total. So they have 5 more siblings that they were hoping that the party members can find. And so they agree, and they carry the 2 fairies with them. Helvig pockets the actual gold gilded cages that they came in, because they're gold, why would you not? And so they have the fairies with them. And all the fairies have separate colours, and their names are based off the colours. So you have Sunshine, you've got Aqua, you've got Emerald, everything like that. So that's essentially what their task was. And so they go cautiously through the cavern. They were very smart, and they cautiously go through the cavern, and they find some of the fairies, and they rescue them. And they find the one male family member fairy, which is Aqua, who has a very large chip on his shoulder, being the only male, and so he's very arrogant, he's very standoffish, he doesn't want to help them, he just goes, whatever, I'll do whatever I want to do, don't care what happens to his siblings, when he obviously does. It's just that kind of very stereotypical trope of his personality. But they do get a map, a very crudely drawn map of where the fairies used to live down here, and they used to come down here a lot, but a lot of them have not come down here anymore because of what's been happening. So they aren't too sure what's happening, but basically bandits came in one night because it used to be mined by dwarves. Dwarves are fine to mine. The fairies used to go weaving between them and everything like that. They had no qualms with them whatsoever. But the bandits that came bucket everything up, and so ever since then they've been captured, locked away, separated from the rest of their family members, and shit's not been good. So they ask for the assistance of the party to kind of rectify the situation and stop what's happening, which they agree to. And so they go to find more of the fairies. The map also shows where the exit is, where the fair is gathered, but also that there is certain weird parts of the cavern. Like there's a smelly area, there's also a big question mark area, there's a noisy area and everything like that. And so they decided they're going to go around to where the question mark area is, just to see what's going on. There's a big sign on the front of this ramshackled, really hastily made kind of like blockade made of timber and everything like that, but it's got the go away generic like do not enter sign and stuff like that. They can hear a noise on the other end of the wooden blockade, and so they decide, very smart, Auxorian turns into a spider and goes up the roof very silently across the roof so that he can look down and everything. And so he gets there and he gets to the point where he's halfway through this kind of like tunnel system. And he sees a tail swishing. It's like a scale tail. So he's like, whoop, that's not good. That could be a large dragon or something. Warns his comrades about what it is, but proceeds anyway. As he gets around the corner, you can see that the tail extends around the corner and attaches itself to a machine. The machine itself is kind of being utilized by this tiny kobold as he's making the tail swish back and forth to make it look like a large dragon is just around the corner as a kind of like deterrent for invaders or anyone who wants to come in here. But you can see he's like really happily doing this, like, yeah, I hope they go away, and everything like that. But this leads to the now Spider Auxorian seeing what's happening and informing his comrades, yep, nope, it's a kobold, let's speak to him and get this, let's see what's happening about that. And so they all barrage through, break down the kind of like barricade he made, and past the swishing of this mechanical tail that he's made, and they meet Sleeper. So Sleeper is a kobold, mechanist or mechanist or however you want to say it from where you are, or artificer is another term for it. But essentially, he's a little trinket boy. He's handy with he's handy with his fingers, and he makes all the clickety clacks. And so they meet Schlieber, and he basically explains to him that he's been down here. He was one of the miners, but he came here to make some money to take it back to his shop and everything like that, where he works, and that he's noticed that no one's come in the meantime. So he's like, well, this is easy. I'm getting paid to basically do nothing. So he's like, I wonder how long I can get away with it. Not realizing that he's been down here for so long that shit's at the fan. All his miner friends are, well, either disappeared or dead. No one's coming here anymore. There's flesh creatures here. Like, it's not exactly great, but he has a ample supply of food and water and everything like that, because this is a stockroom he took it all from. And so he's like, he could survive for ages longer still, and he just had no idea what was going on. But the party explains what's going on. He's like, oh, well, I got to get out of Dodge then. That's not exactly great. What's happening? I don't want to be here and get absorbed by this disgusting flesh amalgamation gibbering mouther. And so for the time being, Schlieber joins them. He does have a small gun, which has got like different elemental bullets in it and everything like that. And Helvig sees this and he's like, that I want. I want that. As a pistol as it is. And so he sees it and makes the deal. He's like, can I please have it? What can I get for it? And everything like that. And, he agrees. He agrees to help him and everything like that. As long as he can get them out. If he can get them out, if he can get the Sleeper out, then he's going to give him the pistol. And so Helvig, of course, agrees, because that sounds like a great free item. And so they make it through the rest of the cavern. They rescue 5 of the 7 fairies. And they hear that the noises become much louder. The voices talking amongst each other become vastly louder. They find what do you call it? A crate of cultist robes, with initials on them, and they kind of grab a bunch of them just as disguises, and so they make their way to where they can hear the voices, disguise themselves up. And Helvig's like, you know what, I think I've got this. And so he walks in there pretending to be from another bandit like station that was up the northern area near the entrance. He walks in there and starts just chatting away, rolled really well in deception to showcase that I'm one of you boys. Don't worry. Fuck this, fuck that. Rah rah rah. Where's the beard? He did really well as well. It was really good. He did really good role playing there. But he basically explains. He's just like, what's going on? You're like, he gets a lowdown of what's happening, and he can see that there's three bandits, and they explain that there's the dude that hired them is still just below them in this like small nook area. It's kind of like office, you could almost call it. And he's been making these disgusting creatures, and they kind of hate them and everything like that. But he's paying the bills and stuff like that, and they're all like, "Oh yeah, cool, whatever, that's all good," everything like that. And he's like, "Let's kick this up to 11." And he goes, "I'm going to basically try and kill them all." And so he blows his flute for the first time, his Bone Devil flute. And he successfully does it. And a Bone Devil. Now, if you want to look up what they are frightening and powerful. And I don't regret giving it to him. It's a fun thing. It's a cool creature that he got. Makes sense for his character. But it's a large skeletal, almost a lizard you could call it, like a scorpion. It's very hard. You look up the picture of it and you're like, okay, I get it. But it has like a stinging tail. It's very large, 9 feet I think it is, and large talons and everything like that to slash people with. But he summons that and just starts eviscerating these bandits like they're nothing, like they're butter. Does a great job of that, which is very funny. And then they all again basically. The rest of the party's like, well, all right, let's go for it. Kind of rushes in, emerges in to save the day. They kill the bandits, and then they go down to see that there is a necromancer down there. Kind of with a mad scientist look to him. He also has like a bunch of alchemical tables with different variations of different liquids and everything like that. Beakers, transfusions, and everything like that. But you can see that there is two. The final two fairies, unfortunately, are actually kind of like strung up, being tortured almost or experimented on. And you can see that they are vastly different to the other ones. They kind of have like a grey hue to them, and they don't exactly seem like themselves, and they kind of screech and everything like that. And he's like trying to do some weird experiments on them, and so the party's like, nope, that's not happening, and goes to attack him. Um, they were wailing away at him, doing some pretty decent blows, and realizing after about, I think it was 2 rounds of combat, 2 turns or so, 2 turns of combat, that everything they were doing didn't seem to take any kind of physical effect on this necromancer, this spellcaster, and that they were like, well, what's going on? He did have a shield, it's a magical shield, to ward against, physical violence against him, because spells are powerful and all, but also wizards are squishy. And so he basically, they whack him enough, especially the Bone Devil, they whack him enough that the actual shield shatters, and they can start actually attacking the necromancer. And so they start wailing on him very quickly. So, they're quite infuriated with what's going on, especially the kind of torture of these poor souls, these poor fairies. And so they beat the living side out of him and win that fight, and they try and get some answers out of him, and he's giving the spiel of, I'm here to better humanity, don't you want to be on the good side of humanity, don't you want to expand past our evolution, don't you want to evolve as a species, why are we stagnating, why are we stuck where we are, I'm not the only one who thinks this way, blah 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 blah. And they're like, nope, that's not a good reason for that, that's a terrible. And they end him. They end his life, and Helvig goes, cool, get into my zombie bag of holding, and chucks him right in there. So there's a fresh new necromancer corpse inside of his bag of holding. Upon the death of the necromancer, they do see that they try and do a medicine healing effect on the fairies, which does roll well and does work. And so the fairies, the last two, kind of brought back from the brink of death to a semi-stable condition, unconscious, but not dying. And so with that, the party leaves the cavern, and Aqua goes, I'm going to take you back to the area where the miners are, see if they're still there. If they are, going to go with them. If they're not, they're still going to go anyway. So they make it to a kind of a campsite with various tents and workers' units, stations set up, and everything ready to go. And unfortunately, none of the miners are there. They're all gone. Um, they were all used in this experimentation by this necromancer to make those gibbering mouthers. So it's a shit way to die, but it is unfortunately the way they did die. And so they do go, they do win. They need a long rest after that. They get some sleep, and have experienced for the first time the kind of dual sun situation where they like exhausted, went to bed and go, whoop, the sun has just gone and the sun has come back. So they got to experience that and found it like a little difficult to sleep, but they still got their sleep simply by physical exhaustion of the fights they had to do. Um, all the fairies are very thankful. Schlebar gives the gun to Helvig as a prize, and so he gets his Anarchy pistol, which he likes. Um, gives him the knowledge a bit of it, and goes, if you want to know more, you can come to the kind of large city of Anvil, which is the kind of capital of the Seelie side, and Mesimbra is the capital of the Unseelie side. So you have the Citadel on the Unseelie side, and then below it attached to it is Mesimbra. Vice versa, you have Anvil attached to the large, beautiful, opulent castle that is the Seelie Castle where Tiandra lives, the Archfey of the Seelie, and the Queen of everything, of the Fae. And you have the town of Anvil connected to it. And so he has a workshop there. And so he says, "Look, come to the workshop, and I can help you with some more stuff. You know, a proper thank you as well, because he doesn't have much on him at the moment. He's like, a proper thank you. You can come to my shop. It's called the Last Stop. Jokingly he calls it that because it's the first shop you see when you walk in. So it's the first shop you see. It's also the last shop you see, the last stop on the way out. So he has a play of words. So I was pretty happy with that. But he says that the fairies are going to go with him. So he there's a carriage with horses and stuff like that. And they all pack up ready to go to Anvil and let the mining company there know what the hell has gone on, why they have not probably received no correspondence and quite some time. Aqua, though, has come around to being less obtuse and less of a dick, and takes a liking to the party and offers them a reward from himself. He gives them coordinates of where to go to find it, and he just says, don't tell anyone else what it is, or that I told you where it is. Pardon me. Anything like that. And so the party's like, whoa, okay, cool, what is it? So they decide to not follow the fairies and Schleber to Anvil, and instead they go for their prize. And so they head down, not too far, it's about a 35-minute walk, down to this kind of like very odd bridge built by these two guardians, and these guardians look after this prize that Aqua gave them. And it's just two large fluffy doggy boys who just nothing more than just have a bone, and that's all they needed to allow passage through. And so once they get through, they see this kind of large whitey grey egg kind of sitting there in a nest kind of formation, and they pick it up, and this is the egg that Aqua was caring for, or loosely caring for, before he got captured. But it now belongs to the party, and so they started a kind of a mini game, you could say, where they get two rolls of differing varieties to try and raise this egg and to change what is inside of it to become their kind of pet. So they have like they could cuddle it, which is a constitution roll to see if they roll really well, which gives them warmth and stuff. They can do a psychic roll, arcana roll to do a psychic link with it and give it that kind of more of a mystique to it, where it can become like a more mythical creature with magic. They can do a performance for music to kind of give it that arty feel and to kind of change the color of it. It's a whole bunch of different rolls they can do to kind of alter the egg and the inhabitant of its inside, which, spoiler down, it's not so much later, but they have done enough rolls where it now has changed and it's deep yellowy gold with kind of scales on the side of it. Not your normal scales, kind of like the porcupine look to it, so it's a very bristly look to it, so it's a quite weird looking egg at the moment. But it's theirs. and we'll find out soon what's coming in there. But they finish their session there, and they decide that they're going to travel now, using the kind of pull of the tug from the compass to kind of guide their way, which does guide them to a forest area. So, they follow the plains and they follow the pathway for quite some time. You know, hours upon hours of walking, talking amongst themselves, getting to know each other a little bit better. Because there's still four strangers that have been thrust into this journey together, and just expected to like each other. So it's very good they get a well. Sorry, very good they get along very well. Um, Comes to a crossroads again because it's a pathway and it's a route used by merchants and everything like that. So they do see a couple coming. They see there's the sign that says Anvil straight ahead. So if they keep following the straight ahead route, they'll get to Anvil. Like I said, that is the main city, where they might get to eventually. Um, if they go left, they'll go to Bleak Mist, which they can go to Bleak Mist if they want, and the right was another way as well. Um, they chose to go the way that the kind of tug or pull of the actual compass, pocket watch is going, and it was leaning more towards you've got like Bleak Mist here and Anvil here. It's like directly in the middle, so it wasn't very helpful because it means it doesn't matter which way they go, they're going to kind of go the right way. But they decided to go more towards Bleak Mist. And so they start walking, and they see carriages go past them and everything like that. But then they see a very large, regal, royal-esque looking carriage. It's enormous. Like, it's got like your two large doors that kind of open up in the middle, and it's extremely large, about 4 times the size of your normal carriage. Go past. Helvig's like, I need to know what's in there. I want to basically find out what's going on there. So he flies onto the top of the actual carriage as it's going past. The rest of the party members going to walk behind, like, okay. And ye old Helvig taps the driver in the back and gives him a little bit of a fright, but kind of introduces himself, and the carriage driver, who's a tabaxi, introduces himself as Eridin. And so Eridin kind of goes, well, I would like the company if you're happy to join him. So Helvig, slots himself down next to him and starts talking, which is really cool. And they start getting to chatting. They start getting to fashion tips because, Eridin's wearing this really beautiful kind of like tailored purple and gold outfit with a vest and a top hat and everything like that, for a coach driver's outfit. But it looks very regal and royal. And so he's like, oh, where can I get that? And he's like, oh, my tailor can make it. And they had a bit of bromancing. It was really sweet. I liked it a lot. They were talking the whole way. It was good. And on the back foot, you've got 3 comrades walking this entire way going, it's a bit tiring and everything like that. But the bit of law they do find is that to get into Bleak Mist, you need a pass. What's good? Sorry. You need a pass. And with this pass, merchants get them because they need them to go in and out of the actual city themselves, but they also get given a spare one just to bring other people with them. And so he offers his spare one to Helvig. And Helvig's like, I'll accept it, of course, with like BFF style. This though does mean that the 3 of his comrades who are starting to lag behind because they're getting a bit tired. It's a lot of walking. It's a lot of treks and a lot of rolls they have to roll to actually catch up. And unfortunately, carriages move much quicker than your standard feet do. And so Helvig gets a little bit too far ahead. Gets to the kind of gate of Bleak Mist, which you can see the Bleak Mist has like a river in front of it, and then a bridge and then a gatehouse with guards in front of it who do the kind of checkpoint where they're like, hey, do you have a pass? Can't let you in without it. But they go, if you don't have one, we have a list of jobs we can do to kind of earn one and everything like that. And so Helvig goes, well, catch you guys, and just enters Bleak Mist without them. It just goes does his own thing, and the other 3 are like, oh fuck, alright, we kind of need passes too, and ask for, some jobs to do. One involves chopping a tree down, a very large, thick tree that has a bunch of dancers actually dancing around it, so they're like, I don't know if I want to do that. Um, and aside from the dancers, there was helping an individual who's been crying for help for like 2 or 3 days apparently. And so people have just been walking past and going like, "There's a crazy man shouting at people on the road" and stuff like that. And they're like, "Oh, we'll take that one." So they take their task and they make their way towards the direction that they'll told by the guards where they actually head. And they get there and they can see that they can see a man standing there, kind of with his arms like T posing out like that, with a golden goblet just kind of like balanced perfectly on his head. And you can tell he's balancing and trying not to move too much, just so he can actually, just so he can, it seems like he doesn't want to move. They go up to him and they ask what is going on, and this man is just like, this poor dude's just like, please, you gotta help me. Like, I made a bet with some fairies. I won the bet, but they tricked me, and now they said that they put this goblet in my head, and they said if the goblet falls and the liquid's in a container, if the liquid in it the container falls out, I will die. So he's been too terrified to actually move whatsoever. Um, and so he's like, I need to like figure out what's going on. So they look at the goblin, they kind of inspect everything and ask about the story of what's happened. And they say, fairies took all my belongings, stuff like that. I actually run a shop in Bleak Mist. My name is Elkar. Please, you got to help me out. And so Fleur's just like, I think that I think he's been stooged. I think he's been stooged a bit. And so they go, well, what can we do about that? And so they're like, what if we just like siphon the liquid out and see if it's the liquid that's poisonous or something like that. And so Fleur's just like, no, fuck it, just oh cool. Um, just takes the actual goblet straight off his help. Rips his scalp as well, rips some poor like hair off it as well. So when she like rips off this goblet, it's got like hair follicles like stuck to the bottom of it, as it was just glued to the top of this poor man's head. So even if he moved, it would have stayed on there. Yeah, I was like, we got a bot. Oh my god, how are we get a bot in our first stream? Um, and so poor Elkar, realizing he was actually tricked by these fairies, the minute they kind of rip it off and he's got this little bowl patch on him now, the fairies kind of like, you can hear him giggling, they fly out, throw his belongings at him and they fly away and like giggling like so much. And he's just like, he's overjoyed though, because the poor man's been standing there for days. He's kind of like covered in urine and stuff like that. He kind of smells bad, and he's just like, "Thank you so much." He's ever grateful for them. He goes, "I've got plenty of the passes because he owns a shop, so he needs multiple of them." So he says, "I can give one for each of you. Let's just get there." And so they all traverse back to Bleakmist, with their new passes in hand and a new smelly friend with them. Lovely man. He's a halfling too. Um, and so they make it to Bleakmist. A kind of small thoroughfare town that a lot of people travel through to get to other places and everything like that. But a lot of people are hunkered down and kind of live there. It's a very quaint, forest-y looking one. So it's set within the middle of a forest, has a main path and everything like that, has a beautiful river around it, has a tavern, has a shopping district area, has pretty much everything you kind of need in a quaint little village. And a housing estate area, and a bathhouse. So everything you could pretty much need. A lot of people stay here, but it's good to kind of stop for people to go and then keep going afterwards. Um, and so they get there, and Elkar's like, "I'm going to go to my shop. I'm going to make sure everything's okay. I'm going to have a shower, of course." And so he shows them where the shop is, and then the party then looks around, going, "Oh, cool! I can actually see the rest of the. They can receive the rest of the town. They can see the tavern. They can see that there's a stables area. They can see shops to the right. They can see shops to the left, and then there's a path that diverges to the left and goes upwards towards the housing estate area, where people, at the end of the day, will go to their houses, of course. And so it's getting towards the end of the day, and they're like, we need to find lodgings. And go inside the tavern, and Helvig is already like drunk. He's drunk so much alcohol. Like he's just found the two. When he got there as well, he found two Dragonborns, and made really good friends with them straight away. And they were shouting drinks for each other, and they all got smashed on this table. They all arrived. And Elvig's made best friends with his two Dragonborns. And it was a good good moment of them just like what has been going on. He's just like, hey guys, welcome. What took you so long? But they managed to befriend the owner of the tavern, whose name is River. And he River is the owner of this tavern, and it's called the Moss Bottle Tavern. And it's his pride and joy. He loves it and everything like that. And so they, you know, get some more food because they want food. They get some drinks and have merriment, a party, and it's a good night for everyone. There's lodgings at the tavern as well, so they pay for lodgings and all that. And then River goes to Helvig. I have one very special shot that if you're willing to try it, you'll be famous around these parts. And a lot of people can't survive this. And when he's like, survive, people are like, what do you mean survive? He's like, just that. And so Helvig's like, done. Grabs it, just swings it, just necks it. Actually, absolutely necks this thing. And gets this feeling of like, it's burning sensation, kind of like, his chest is on fire. You can actually see a orange glow in his chest, kind of illuminating his ribcage and stuff like that. And they're like, oh, that's not okay. He like puffs out smoke out of the out of the front of his mouth and everything like that. But he rolls a good constitution, and he actually survives it. I mean, he wasn't gonna die, but he survives it and he enjoys it. And River is just like, you are the first person to ever finally survive this. Like, either you didn't pass out, you didn't vomit, you didn't breathe fire, like you fully withstood it. And he's just so elated because he's just like wanting someone to finally just have this drink and not be like pussy out of it, essentially. And so Helvig's like, I am your man, and so like he's like the king of the town at this point now because of that. And so they all rest for the night. They have a good hearty drink, meals. They have a really good session together, and then they get some sleep. Just to refresh themselves and get themselves ready in the morning. And so they get up, refreshed, feeling okay. Helvig did not make it to bed. He passed out on the table, so he wakes up with a astounding hangover. Which he's a bit used to, but he has a bit of a hangover. He gets used to it and everything like that. But he does very well to kind of circumvent that and still plays along very well. And so they have their breakfast and they get themselves ready to go and everything like that. And Elkar, they're gonna go see Elkar for the extra part of their kind of prize for rescuing him. And so they get up and they go outside. And the minute they go outside, they can see that there is this large, kind of like almost like makeshift stage they've made in the middle of the town next to the tree. And the tree is the large kind of like Yggdrasil looking tree of life symbol that is the Bleakmere sigil. It's a large branching out tree. And this is obviously the tree that they're talking about. And you can see Eredin actually on the stage getting everything ready. And he explains, the person that was inside the carriage is indeed coming to talk to you all, and she's royalty. It's going to be very exciting. And so they went around and they see, for the first time, Auriel. Is very large, the this mummy situation. She's a very large, almost kind of like ice goddess. So she has pure white hair, has a kind of jacket on, and a top that is like that crystally white, crystally blue to it. With the cleavage showing and everything like that. She has like this dress on that looks gorgeous and kind of sparkles with snowflakes all over it that kind of shift and warp between the fabric itself. And she's like, just gorgeous to look at. And she's incredibly large. I mean, she's really, really tall. She's like 10 or 10 feet or something like that. She's huge. Like, she's she's royalty, and she's also, a deity. She's a demigod at this point because she is Tiandra, who is once again, Seelie Archfey, the queen of everything. It's her second daughter. And so Auril gives this announcement that it happens every now and again, but they do a large event in Anvil, and of course the Citadel connected to it, that the common folks can attend if they kind of actually win the chance to go to it. Usually it's, you got to be higher echelon, you got to be royalty, you got to be like very famous, or money's involved where you get invited to these things. But this is every now and again they'll allow the common folk to come, and it's a ball, like a dance, and everyone is able to attend. Everyone's able to try their luck and get a ticket to attend. And so she explains, the ball's coming up very soon. She has to go to Cosima and a bunch of the other towns to let them know and stuff like that. Ultimately, she's going to end up in Anvil, where she lives, where she resides, where she lives in the Citadel, blah, blah, but you know what I mean. But that's the crux of that. And so everything's like, Helvig's like, well, do you want bodyguards? As a kind of chance to get into this thing, like, oh, we can be bodyguards. You've seen we can fight, blah blah blah. Like, we're pretty strong. Eridan's like, I'll put a tour, because they're leaving tomorrow. Like, they're literally leaving like straight away, like in the morning. They're out, and so he's like, oh, I'll ask her. And so he goes and asks her, and they have a little conversation that takes a bit of time away from the party, as the rest of the party go, well, I'm going to go to Alcazar, to get the prize he promised. So they enter the shop of Elka, and it's a weird kind of amalgamation of different things. It's kind of like an op shop of everything. It's got a menagerie in the top where it's got birds running along the rafters and things like that, and you can see the birds are being harassed by something. You can see there's a bunch of like barrels full of potions that have no labels on them, so it's red. It's got like, I think it said like, one luro. I forgot to mention. Sorry, the currency is There's only two currencies. There is luro for the light side, which is the Seelie side, or Kuro for the dark side, which is the Mesimbra side, the unseelie side. So that's all it is. People still within the Fae will ask for, like, your name, your true name, your life, all these different things. But like physical currency, I made it on Homebrew. The physical currency is Luro and Kuro, just to make it simple and easy. So it kind of, I don't have to worry about too much, And so Elkar's like, I'm so thank you for everything you did. Please, like, have a look around. You can take one of the items if you need and everything like that. Like, I'm so thankful for everything you've done. And so, they look around and expense. Do a shopping episode, essentially. Have a look at some of the stuff and everything like that. And Bong sees a kind of glowing bit of parchment on the wall, and he's like, "Oh, I want that." No one else can see the glow; it's just for him. So he's like, "I want that." You've got a kind of like set of books that look like normal books, so stacked up, and there's a green, kind of fluorescent green one in the middle that's kind of like calling to Helvig. Helvig's like, "I want the books, please," which is fair. So he gets that. Fleur looking around and everything like that, and she gets her prize just a bit after as well, but she picks up a knife as well. That kind of seems like it could be her. And then Uxurian sees the one thing he wants, and kind of the one thing that was annoying the birds in the rafters of the roof. You can see there's a tiny red scaly beast with wings kind of chasing after them, and so Elkai grabs a net and climbs up this ladder to get the creature, and kind of snags it and brings it down to see a tiny red pseudo dragon. So pseudo dragons are like your normal dragons, but like tiny, kind of like baby ones that never grow out of that stage. They never get bigger than, like, kind of like a football-sized creature essentially. They never get any bigger than that. And so it's Uxurian's like, I want that. I want the pseudo dragon. What can I do for that? And then Elkar explains, Torkalin is his assistant, and she came back kind of distraught. and his wares were stolen by bandits near a couple of days before this, and he's like, could you please assist in getting them back, and I will. You can have the pseudo dragon. Like it's annoying shit. I'm a birds. It's already killed some to eat them. Like you can have it. And so the group collectively, they could either go with Auril to Cosima, and then up to Anvil after that, wherever she may go, or they can try and help Uxorine acquire a comrade, a little pseudo dragon, by killing the bandits. Ultimately, it ends up with them deciding to go after the bandits, because also bandits are more of a now problem that should be dealt with, and so they agree with that. And so they prepare themselves, get everything ready. They get the assistant of Torquilin, who's like, "Look, I know where they are. They're in a quarry. So just outside of Bleak Mist is a large expanse of plains, and there's a forest and a lake next to them. And they've also got a path, a merchant's path, beaten down by wearing travelers walking across it day and night. So it's clearly tell that's well used. But past that is a bridge, and then past that is the mountain. There's a mountain. And then there's a quarry that was built into the side of the mountain that has been abandoned. Well, I thought it was abandoned, but Torquilin says that now these bandits have taken it over. And they have taken the large amount of wares that was intended for the shop. And she goes, I can get you to a portion, a part where it's close, but she doesn't feel safer going any further than that. And so she goes, I can get you close enough, and then you guys can do the rest. And they're like, sure. And so they agree to go on this quest to retrieve the wares of Elka. That summarizes a semi-decent amount of where the guys are up to now. It does progress a little differently and weirdly after this. So what I'm going to do is we'll say this is your part 1 of the campaign summarized. I believe I reckon at this point I can get it to probably a part 3, and then what I intend to do is have this all edited and then uploaded to our YouTube channel so it can be a part of history and saved on there. And then I also have to figure out how to stream on Twitch and YouTube at the same time, whether or not this ancient relic of a PC, which I still love, can handle it or not. But this is our part 1 of our campaign, and I am loving every session of it. I am enjoying DMing for these guys. I really enjoy being a forever DM. One day it might break, who knows? But it's we haven't done it for like 3 weeks or 4 weeks. They're 4 weeks now, and I miss it so much. I just want to get back into it. We're up to a really good point, and like we've got other people that joined us temporarily, and I just want to really get back into it. So hopefully we can. But for now, this is our part 1. It'll be saved on Twitch. It'll be saved on our YouTube. I'm going to do a lot of editing. I'm going to make the overlays better. I'm going to make it bright. Like, this is going to be a whole thing. You're hopefully going to see. Yeah, I know. I know. But the whole thing is, I'm like, it's happening, and I am happy with streaming this. The guys have agreed to stream with it. You're going to see our faces soon, and you're going to see more of our sessions. And yeah, it's all going to happen. So I will essentially end the stream here, and thank those who joined and those who haven't joined who will watch this later. And, this is just the beginning of it all. We may not make it big, but I just want a cool record of what we've been doing, that if anyone wants to read it later on or watch it later on, they can. And that's the end goal of it. The end goal of it is just to have fun and for you to join us on the fun. That's what I want out of it. And so I've got people who want to watch these videos who personally requested, going, I hear you run DM sessions and I really want to see it, but it's really hard because once the session's kind of finished, it disappears into the ether. You can talk about it, but it's really cool if you get to experience that kind of emotions and stuff and have a record of it happening. So this is kind of like a time capsule essentially, and we're just going to keep adding to it. So yeah, that's hope you enjoyed me rambling for nearly 2 hours, but there's more rambling to come. And then when the rambling stops, we'll have sessions, and then that's when shenanigans happen. So I'd like to thank you all, and I ended there for tonight. And the next part I will probably stream in a couple of days. I intend to try and get them done, whiz bang done, so that everyone's able to watch them and catch up. And then we'll start the regular scheduled sessions. Will hopefully start again soon. So with that, I bid you adieu, and thank you for joining us on Take a Long Rest. Adios.